Hello, one and all. This is the Low-Code Campfire, episode number 240 for Friday, April 17th, 2026. I am Dale Warner, head of support for Plantin App, and this is an Open Lines Friday, something I stole long ago from radio host. This is an opportunity for us to get together as a low-code community and share what we're doing, what challenges, what techniques we're using. So we do hope that you'll engage with us. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. You can get there youtube.com/plantinap. We'll run this agenda. We'll stop and say hello because, well, we're a friendly group and we always do anything first call, anything you want to talk about, anything you've submitted in advance. And then we'll dip into some of these other topics like our Campfire website or a little show and tell. I have one of those today. And then after an hour or so, we go into Afterglow. That's where we stop and raise a virtual adult beverage and get ready for the weekend. So do hang with us after we turn off the recording if you like. Mostly jump in and engage with us. You can submit questions and topics in advance at support@plantinap.com. I'll do a little bit of research and put them on the agenda. A programming note, I think it's 2 weeks from today. There will be no campfire gathering May 1st. With that, hello, hello,
Hi.
Hello.
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 Familiar group today. No outsiders, but we would welcome new people if you're listening in replay. Do engage with us. It's a great place to get your questions answered or maybe help out another low coder. So with that, anybody come with something they want to talk about? This is the part where we say don't be shy because I don't have a lot on the list. I have a little on the list, but I really. All right, here we go. I'll dive into my stuff. Um, I've mentioned and haven't gotten through in our documentation. I'm working on SQL Deadlocks, but I do have news, and that is that there is we've got a change in progress in this area. So for those who haven't been following along, in late version 127 and all of version 128, so the current version. The run SQL actions and the load create list from SQL actions, they all run in transactions, and depending on the concurrency of your database and the way that you've done development, it's possible to introduce deadlocks where something SQL might uh, put you in a queue for a while, and if the deadlock doesn't resolve, then the your SQL doesn't run at all. So we definitely want to reduce the number of deadlocks. As a matter of fact, this change, putting things inside transactions, was all about providing a nice, consistent transaction space for you to work in, and it was about removing deadlocks that we were seeing. But for some people, that's actually created some, and we've been talking about these last couple of weeks. Anyway, there is a development ticket underway to allow you to choose not to participate in transactions. So your run SQL action, I believe, will have a new checkbox that when you create a new SQL action going forward, the checkbox will be checked and it will use transactions, but you can uncheck it or perhaps in some cases it'll default if you're upgrading to 128, default to unchecked, and that way you'll keep the old behavior or at least a transactioned behavior. So without getting into the deep there, that's um, I think that's good news. There's a couple of cases where running inside of a transaction can cause problems. One of those is we had a case this week where a client is trying to interface with a um, ODBC driver that's a 32-bit driver that didn't support transactions. So the fact that we forced things to be wrapped in transactions, made it where that wouldn't run at all. So being being able to turn that off will make that possible, and make it possible for them to use that ODBC driver. Another case, there's some people who have built management tools where they're trying to do things within SQL Server, and those kinds of things just by definition can't be done in transactions. So does has anybody noticed an impact from this? And any comment as to, well, I just need a little pat on the back that we're going in the right direction.
I like the the implementation of a checkbox to make that selection on a run SQL query. That's a good improvement.
I think it's the right direction for the
Hmm.
product. We want the by default, we're trying to make it easy for low code engineers to do the right thing, but so meaning putting your transactions wrapped in putting your SQL wrapped in transactions is the right thing by default. But if you have reason not to, then turning it off is the right step.
Yep.
That
So
seems like
the
very fast
deadlock,
action. Nice job.
We'll see. We'll see when it gets to actually gets out, but that's the plan. Um, our I guess we haven't really talked about that in a while, but our cadence, how long it takes to get something out, unless it's, I mean, emergency things in theory could be fixed overnight, but in our normal cadence, when something gets reported and goes into development, if it were fixed this week, um, we put it into a cumulative hotfix, but by default, we delay the cumulative hotfix. We give it a 7-day bake period where we apply it to our internal systems. Um, so I think in the normal case of if something goes into development, that there's kind of 2 weeks built into the process of getting it out. Um, in limited cases, we can um, let you participate almost like in a beta level of getting the cumulative hotfix as we're testing it. But yeah, that's I don't know. Is that news to anybody that we have this cadence?
It's not news to me.
Yeah, we 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 do this again to try to make sure that we're inflicting it on ourselves before we inflict it on you. So yeah.
a general question on the deadlocks issue is
Yeah.
this. Most of my applications are fairly simple in that if I run a SQL query, it's because I need the data immediately thereafter. And so my next action is to act on it. And my understanding of it is that it's being done in sequence so that the SQL may get queued and then run and then responded, but my next action's not going to run until after that's complete. That's correct?
Yes.
Got it.
Correct.
So
Yep.
this situation for deadlock is if I were to build some kind of parallel process where I'm manipulating SQL in both paths, and then that's the potential for some kind of deadlock. Do I understand that correctly?
I think so. I think the easiest way, the way that I wrap my mind around it is imagine that you're running that the SQL that you're doing is very long running. So if you're doing an import or bulk update, and some SQL is complex, like select a, a, 1,000 rows, or let's say 100,000 rows out of a table, and then update something else. And what SQL will do then is when it's wrapped in a transaction is that all of those records in the select are locked for the duration of the SQL. And then, so depending on how, so let's say that whole thing takes 10 seconds to run. if you have another user that's selecting out of that same data set during the time that that is running, or perhaps, let's say, even viewing data on a grid, that the records might be locked and not returned in waiting on that thing to go. So when you have very long-running SQL queries, that's the place where you start to get into trouble. And the documentation topic, which is published but is still being manipulated, we'll talk about too that you can also get into deadlocks by doing things in inconsistent order. So if you have table A and table B, and in one case you select from table A and do something to table, and then do something to table B, and then in the other case you have table B that you're selecting out of and doing something to table A, that those kinds of mismatches will end up producing more deadlocks. So
That makes sense. The only process I have a process that I'm concerned about it, but what I did was doing the very large data manipulation that happens overnight. I do start with putting a lock by having another table with a record in it that is the lock, and I set the lock before going into the process of updating the table, and then clear the lock when I'm all done, so that the other process where people are wanting to look at the data, um, the first thing that happens is I test the lock, and if it's locked, then tell them, sorry, you have to wait a second.
um, the topic is out here, and it's good as far as it goes. The one thing that if you're um, and this was provided by frequent contributor Ben, there's this configuration that you can do in SQL Server. So if you're encountering deadlocks and uh, they're based on the fact that you're selecting data that's being held when it shouldn't be held locked, that there's a mitigation that's possible here. So it's in the documentation. Sounds like you're not encountering deadlocks now, so that's
No.
cool. Good. All right, before I move on, questions. Anybody think of something that you really want to talk about? I don't want to monopolize the conversation if you have something you want to get into.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning, everyone.
Hey, Matt.
So when you open up a form in a pop-up, you can supply using the API. You can supply query string parameters to it. The same functionality is not available when you do the same thing with a tab listing. So
When you do it with a what?
with a listing,
Ah,
so you can use update query string. And I think I've done that successfully for one query string item, but I like to send a bunch of things across in the query string. And I tried to do it and didn't seem to work. The first one worked. The following ones apparently did not. So I'm not sure if I'm either A, running into a wall, or B, doing something wrong. All right.
mm, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll just point out that there is a contribution out here that has being able to push things to the query string, and so you can see as I'm clicking that we're getting
Yeah.
and I'm using that to filter this listing.
Okay.
So, and there's a couple of things on the query string, so there might be answers in.
All right. Thank you. That's a good place to start. But in strictly speaking, kind of a update query string, you're not sure if that will actually essentially do what this is doing.
I'm sorry, update query string.
Yeah, the API call DNSF update query string param. Yeah, all right.
So in my example here, I am using this appears to be just JavaScript, not using our API to make things happen.
Okay. I will take a look at it.
No, except for the get URL parts, because that's a
Oh yeah,
DNSF API. Yep.
All right, hang on, let me make sure do I know what that is? Is that on the spreadsheet, do you know?
I think it is. Yeah, it's there.
Yep. Get URL parts. Okay, thank you.
Wow, this is taking a minute to load here. So yes, it is on the list. So just pointing out that the JavaScript API is listed here under. It is a contribution on campfire.plantonapp.com, and you can click to open this list. And these are all the ones that we've published. I'm almost certain that the current ones are the things we should be using. I think, Patrick, you can correct me if you know better. Anyone can correct me, but I'm pretty sure the new ones we never implemented.
I'm not aware that they ever were. Yeah,
So
they
should be using a lot of this column. And the this other thing that I'm this other page here. I don't know if do you want me to give you the URL for this? I could put it in chat if you want, but
No, it's fine. I've actually seen this before, and I may have actually used it in a different context. I was just looking to know whether or not I was doing something wrong with the update query string, but it seems like not. So thank you.
and just interested in how I did other pieces of this. Yeah, so I'm using get URL parts and JavaScript to manipulate, and this looks like I may be doing that throughout. Yeah. So I think there might be some good examples there to at least get you to the next step.
Thank you.
Good question. Someone else? I see there was a couple of questions on community and maybe in different states of answer. And I hadn't really gotten into looking at them yet, so we can look together. This automation bug one, and I saw it before. I think it's worth mentioning, and yeah, we had somebody comment here. I wasn't familiar with this one, but the if you change a workflow, the um, and then immediately go to automation and open an automation, you would expect the automation to be able to find that workflow, or if you've changed it, you to be able, if you change the inputs or the outputs, to be able to see those, and yet those are something that the cache isn't being cleared. So using if you change a workflow and then you're going to go immediately and try and use it in automation, you may have to go to Persona Bar settings, servers, and clear cache in order to see it, which is unfortunate, but good to know if you're in that spot. Anyone been bit by that before? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, certainly.
Mhm.
Okay.
He said that he did clear cache and restart the application.
He said that he did. So, but since then this has kind of trailed off. I've talked to him even in person before on other topics. So I think he must have been able to find.
Okay.
I suspect that it was truly a clear cache thing. So. Um, I'm not sure of this answer by Athena. Haven't encountered that one before. Okay. And the other one, file management. Trying to no answers on yet at all on this one. So trying to make a file archive move system within automation. I fully configured S3 and have items syncing successfully. Trying to set up a test file. I went through file management. I do not see a move file option. My thought was to then copy file and delete file. My issue is when I try to access that, I wait and get the error site unresponsive, continue or exit. So this is a case where a client has a very big website, lots of assets on the site, and then they're trying to move it to move the static things, the old things, to S3. You can still deliver them from there. It makes it look like it's part of your website, but you don't have to have that your disk taken up by 70 gigabytes worth of old content. You can pay Amazon and they'll hold on to it for you and let it grow forever. So I guess first of all, anybody using S3?
Yes.
And
No.
Future.
sir, I'm sorry, Mark, I didn't hear that.
That's in my future, but
In
not
your
yet.
future. Okay. Yes, I know you've shown photo things, which I assume take up a lot of room. So uh, that could be a solution for you as well.
Yep.
The S3 connector, and I don't know, I think I have one set up here someplace, makes it look like the S3 folder is actually on your system. So we go to our files section and I don't know if it, maybe there's, nope, no icons here. Yeah, so see there's a slightly different icon here that says S3 transcription. This folder is not on my server. It's on Amazon S3. I've named it S3, and you can create put any number of folders to here. So then the client's question here is all about moving. He's got content on his site and he wants to move it off to S3 and find a pattern that's good for moving the older stuff as compared to maybe as you're creating new assets, you could create them directly or copy them onto S3. But now he's got this historical thing. How do I move all my stuff from here to there? So just out of curiosity, anybody dealt with that before?
I have that problem, but I haven't solved it or haven't attempted to solve it yet. I have a bunch of files. Actually, I'm using Azure instead of S3, and I have a bunch of files that have been moved over there. Um, I found that the process of moving it to the Azure file is really, really slow. There's a bug in the way Azure connector works, where it rebuilds the cache all the time. So if you go to create a folder or you go to write a file, it then recaches. So if you have a huge amount of files or a large file structure, it takes a long time. And so I've reverted back to just storing the file on the local server. But I would like a process that runs at night that goes and grabs one of the local files and moves it. So I have the same exact problem he has.
And I'm not familiar with the Azure connector. Does it appear as if it is a folder within your DNN system?
Yes, yes, it does.
So I would assume then that our file management things could manipulate. I mean, are you using Plant and App tools to try to move them, or when you were,
I
or
was,
were you just
yeah,
doing it
originally
manually?
the application was a plan and app upload. And the upload was writing it to a file that was in the Azure file system. And it works, it just takes forever to upload the file because of that caching issue. And so the client was getting very frustrated with the length of time that it took. And so I just went and changed the plant and app form to upload it to a local folder. And now it's working out of the local folder. Later on, I need to access that same file. And so so I'm using the file ID to access it, which is great. So if I were to use some kind of a copy, I would like to be able to just move the location where the file ID would stay the same, so that the next time I do a file ID, it would go to go grab the file in the right physical place.
Mm. On the caching issue, have you um, do you know whether it's um, mitigated at all by using more folders? So is it thinking maybe caching at the folder level versus is it just the pure number of files that are there?
It's the files and the folders. It's rebuilding. It wipes out the cache every time there's an update anywhere
Wow.
in the structure. It wipes out the cache so that it then um, goes and rebuilds the cache, looking through every single file and folder. So it just takes forever. And it's a known problem. Uh, I brought it up to Mitch sometime. This is over a year, and it's just I guess nobody has that big of a problem with it, or they don't have that large of a file structure to worry about.
Mm,
Had I known this would be a problem, I would have broken it into a bunch of smaller blobs on the Azure side, and then each one would still have the problem, but would just be much faster because it would blow away the cache and rebuild it, but it wouldn't really matter because it's a small cache. But
hmm
I've got a large file system, and it's been done. And so redoing it is a bit of a pain. So what I ultimately would like to be able to do is if the file ID is currently pointing to a local on the server, local on the website, I'd like to be able to do a copy, not a copy, but a move. Do you have a move file? I'm looking at your list that's on the screen here, and I see a move folder, but I don't see a move file. And I'm wondering if you can move a file so that the ID stays the same after the process is done.
I can answer that.
Please, over my head.
There is not a move file action. I feel like that maybe, Dale, at some point you said that maybe there was some thought about creating a move file action, but right now, like in the Plantain app files section, there is a move functionality, but it's based on it actually runs a Razor script. So it's a Plantain app token, Plantain app core token that you can't see. It's a system token. That's what it is. A Plantain app system token that you can't see, but it's a Razor script that uses the DNN API to move the file. But there's not an action to move a file.
Is there a way for me to get access to that non-seen token?
You can just use it.
It's in the token list, so I can
No, it's not in the
find it.
token list, but like I'm actually looking at it right now. I can copy and paste it.
Oh, wow, that would be wonderful because then what I'll do is just use that. I just call that to move it over. It's a simple process. I mean, literally, do you have a file in the local folder? If so, move it. And I
These
have, a
test it
standard
before you
location and everything.
rely on it because I'm not familiar with the Azure setup.
Oh,
So
sure,
I,
sure,
yeah,
exactly. But
yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
Um, where's the meeting? Here it is.
Anyone with exposure to our S3 connector and any similarities of cache issue? I've never noticed it, but I haven't dealt with large file structures.
The only issue that I've had with the S3, and I opened a ticket about this a while ago, Dale, and we went back and forth on it. So I don't think you could reproduce it, but the only issue I've seen is that when I move folders, uh, sometimes the hierarchy does not get created correctly on the S3 bucket. But yet
Right.
the hierarchy in the database in the local, the DNN database is correct, but then it's not correct on the S3, which causes, then that causes some issues. So I've actually just decided that for now, we're just not going to move folders, but the moving file thing, I do believe works fine.
So Don, how would let's say you use this move file token, how would this impact the issue of cache? What would happen differently there?
Well,
Or
the
do you
the
know?
issue is really response, user perceived response. So they
Yeah,
upload a couple of files. One is fairly large, a couple meg. One is
yeah.
very, very small. But they say, okay, select the two files you want to upload to the server, and then it just spins and spins and spins and spins and spins.
Because
And
you're
then
going directly to Azure.
because I'm going directly to Azure. So it's like, over a minute, maybe more. So they're
Hmm.
saying, what's wrong? And they're frustrated that it's taking so long. So with a change so that it now just uploads it directly to the site file structure, it happens very quickly. I mean, it's still a few seconds or 10 seconds, maybe 15, but they get that. That's expected because they know it's a large file, but it's not a minute or two. So that's the savings for them. They like that, but now that is filling up the site. And the whole reason for moving to a bunch of offsite files, because they've got a lot of them, lots and lots of storage. So moving it offsite made the DNN website smaller so that it could actually get backed up at night. I mean, it was, gigs and gigs of space. Um, so now it can be uh, quickly backed up. The site is much smaller.
So So I think then another piece of what you're saying is that if you had a Razor token, a way to move this, that you could do it overnight or at a
Yes.
time when the user isn't connected and it doesn't really matter how long it takes.
Yes, exactly. And with the infrequency, I mean, it's not like they're doing hundreds of these a day. It's like, literally it's once a week, but it'll add up if it just sits there, and it has been adding up. So having a solution like this where every night just say, hey, is there a file in this folder? If so, move it and then go back to sleep and then do another one tomorrow would be just fine. And then, of course, that process can take minutes to do the move, and I don't care.
Yep.
The other thing I'd say about that token, just in case, since you can't see, so once again, that token is a PAA system token, so you can't see it in the token's interface. But if you want to see what it does, remember that since it's a Razor token, you can go on your server to portals, default, plant and app scripts, and then look at the PAA sys documents namespace. That's a folder in the scripts, and then it's the move file. I'll copy and paste this.
Gotcha.
Yeah. This
But yeah, testing that would be easy. I mean, and the way that you do this, we've done this before. You just have an action, a get update token, and then have a dummy variable and drop that in, and that performs the function. So that basically is a poor man action for any of these kinds of special things.
I pasted the path to the folder where you can see actually
Got
see
it.
the
Great.
script.
Yes.
And just to the documentation is actually up to date on this particular topic as well. So the path is present in the documentation.
Oh, wonderful.
I heard that bit of surprise.
I'm sorry. I
Good
thought I
job,
was
Dale.
muted.
Calling you out, calling me out.
Hmm.
All right. By the way, the documentation is not in my job description. It's a labor of love I do for all of us.
And we
Well,
appreciate it. We really do.
That's
Certainly
appreciated.
do.
I'm trying to get it.
It's awesome. Yeah.
And you never get the pat on the back for the stuff that's there because everybody assumes it's there. It's only when it's not there we start moaning and groaning.
Every now and then I surprise myself. I find it in the documentation and I'm able to answer a question by saying, hey, look here. That was, yeah, that's the goal. All right. Cool. There are no new campfire contributions. So I was going to go off to, I'm about to dive off into show and tell, unless somebody else has something that you want to show and tell or bring up another topic.
Please show, please tell.
All right, this one was one that I got. Client was interested in being able to integrate with Google Calendar, and so I have a proof of concept of this. It isn't published, but it is something that if it's something that you need, I'm sure it's on some terms and at some whether it's at some rate it could be made available. I don't know, but anyway, being able to put things on the calendar on a Google Calendar. So I have a this is going to interface with, I have a personal calendar here that made my life a little easier to work with. And notice that on 27, 28, there's nothing up my sleeve here. When I run the workflow, it is going to it created that item for me through a pretty straightforward workflow call, which I'll show to you in a minute. So that's one of them. There's another one that deletes an event by ID. So I had put that ID on my clipboard, the return from the first one. And so that should make it go away at the speed of Google. delay. Come on. There it goes. All right. And I have another example one that does it based on time of day, not, I'll make sure. Hopefully this is the right, still on the right day here. I expecting, there it is. It shows up, taking 4 hours off there. And again, I'm just going to delete that out as well. So anybody already integrating with Google Calendar, or see that this might be handy, or want to see behind the curtain?
No, I'm not. Yes, I do.
All right. What if we look at this workflow that I ran, the first one that I ran, I've got a notes section, and by the way, making use of the notes and AI and feeding it a export of a workflow, you can get some really great notes to follow for another day. But the two actions that make this happen, one is to call a workflow that generates an event body. And I'll go into this one in depth in a second. The second one is to call a workflow that says, take that event body and act as if you're this particular user ID, and it puts it on the calendar. So in two actions, you got it done. Most of the work happens here, where you pass in all the different fields, and I've revealed most of the fields that Google expects. So, and tried to make it very easy. So you can send a summary and a description, a start date. If you don't provide an end date, it just assumes one day. So it goes from 428 to 429. That's the expression for doing an all-day event. But you could do, a 3-day event by providing a different date. I'm going to skip start time. These are all for partial day events, and so I'm going to skip them until we look at the next one. But there's a spot for required attendee emails that you can just put in by comma delimited. Optional attendees, another comma delimited list. Location is a parameter. You can put an address in here or a comment or whatever, but that will show up in the event that it creates. I learned something here with color. Google accepts 11 different color IDs, and when you put something on a calendar, I think you saw the one I did came in, well, hopefully it came in green. But if you include other attendees, you can't control their calendar color. And so what I did was, if you choose one of these, it will prefix the summary with a emoji of that color. So even though it comes in on that calendar as white, as a basic color of the event, it has a green emoji in the front of it. And so that lets you color code even for optional attendees or required attendees. So that's fun. A lot of parameters that we provide just the defaults, but you can override them. You probably may not want to, but they're all here available for you to pass. And so I didn't have to fill in a bunch of stuff. Reminders was something I had to learn about. When you invite, when it goes onto somebody's calendars, by default, it will get the reminders that they have for their calendar. And so you can turn that off. If in my case, I was just trying to put PTO on a person's calendar and their supervisor's calendar and a corporate calendar, and we didn't really need reminders. So setting it to false means that you're not going to get whatever the standard reminders are. But if you set it to true, you get whatever your default, you as the recipient of the email or of the calendar item will get the reminders that you have set up. So anyway, all those things come out to a post body, which is just a stack of JSON that you pass on to the next thing and go. So 2 steps and you're done. The partial day event, it again looks same 2 steps, but this time instead of providing a start date and an end date, we're providing a full date and time type of a thing. So in this case, we're doing a 4-hour event, and this is in I think this is an ISO format. So it's got hours offset and things like that. So you have to do a little bit of make sure you're giving it the right kind of parameters. But again, you don't have to pass it an end date if you don't want to. You can just say that you want an hour-long event based on the start time, and it'll figure the end date time for you. And then it's interesting to follow along what Google does when you're setting a date time, a partial day event. You pass along a time zone, and this is used to help you navigate daylight savings time kinds of changes. So if there's lots more time zones that you can choose, but if you set something in a central time zone, then when people are looking at it from other time zones, they see it in their time relative to whatever daylight savings time is happening in central time at that time. So it's quite sophisticated and very useful. And I will tell you, much like other things that we've done, I think we've done integrations with Google Drive, for example, and half the battle is getting authorized with Google, getting the setup correct in your Google project to allow to change the calendar and to allow to impersonate other users. And once you have that, then the rest of this it's details. I mean, I've covered a lot of the details, but it's details. Anyway, that's a fun project that I've been working on.
So you execute the Google Cal create event. That's something that's a action that you developed.
Yes, it's another workflow.
Okay.
So if you go into the workflow, it's not, I did it as a workflow so that I could do all the, I separated out so that I could have error handling built into it and things like that. So
Right.
this is just all about let's talk to Google. So I'm setting his error to false and doing the server request to Google, passing the post body, passing the appropriate headers that you need to, and then handling errors if they happen. So everything, this workflow handles all those pieces. And from an output standpoint, sends back whether or not an error happened. And the main thing that I expect people to need out of this is the Google Responses ID. Once you create an event, if you store that away, then you'll be able to manipulate it easily going forward without having to read the calendar. The full Google result is returned back in case you want to pick out something that I didn't choose to do. And the post body, if you want that for your records or debugging or stuff like that. Anyway, all done by whole workflow.
Very nice. Very nice, Dale.
Yes, thanks for figuring that all out for us.
Hmm.
I haven't, like I say, I haven't figured out what else is going to happen with this. This is something that a particular client wanted, and so we developed it as a generic thing. Good chance that this will end up on Campfire in some form or fashion. But
Just out of curiosity,
yeah.
and have you looked at the same sort of thing with the Microsoft calendaring capability with the iCal?
No, I haven't looked into it, but I'm pretty sure that the result of this thing, for example, when you send when you add a required attendee, optional attendee, that I think what ends up being sent is actually an iCal. So,
Hmm.
and then I'm pretty sure Patrick may have demonstrated this, but I'm pretty sure at some point we have the ability to build an iCal. We use it for.
I think that is in a Low-Code Cafe or maybe Campfire, but yeah, we have done that. It's pretty, yeah,
So go ahead, Patrick. Sorry.
but it's pretty straightforward. It's just that you have to have the correct format, and then you tokenize the format, really.
Okay. So the difference here is you're not setting up a meeting and sending a meeting invite. You're actually placing it on someone's calendar.
Yes.
Okay.
Came up 2 years ago. Let's see if
No.
this is in fact. Discussing how to generate an iCal. So looks like we spent a couple of minutes on it. Back 2 years ago. So Low-Code Campfire number 112 might cover it, and I'm pretty sure we could provide an example if we don't have one. Makes me wonder if it's out here in Campfire. That wasn't.
There you go.
There you go. Ask and you'll receive. So that's another direction. But yes, this creates something that you can put into what it would be an attachment to an email that somebody could click on and get on their calendar. The thing that I was showing is being added directly to a Google Calendar, and invitations are being sent to the attendees. So in my case, it's intended to maintain an organization's calendar for when people are going to be out of the office. So we wanted to put it directly onto a calendar without people having to click and accept and things like that. It's just there.
Very nice. Very, very nice.
And actually replacing a technique where the person requesting PTO was doing had to go through the OAuth dialog within their browser, so it was happening at the browser level. And if they weren't signed in, they would have to sign in order to get it on the calendar. And versus the technique by creating a server. I can't remember the terminology, but a server level identity within the project in Google that you get the ability to act as whatever user you're authorized to act as. So you don't have to go through an OAuth. I think it's a service account is the word I was looking for. So,
Is there a complementary, supplementary, whatever the word is, um, demonstration of reading the calendar? Or your couple that
reading
you
the
showed
calendar.
was posting items to your Google Calendar.
So
Is there a way to read the items that are on a calendar?
there is a way. I haven't demonstrated that, and it wasn't part of the project, so it didn't get added. Um, I suspect that it's just another call to Google to be able to read that calendar.
So you're not checking to see if that time is already being used. You're just putting it on the calendar at that given time, and it just shows up as conflicting items on the same time.
Right. In this particular use case, it's about letting people know when somebody is out of the office. So yes, we're just throwing it on this master calendar without regard for what's already there.
Gotcha. All right.
Um, so, and I believe it was Jim, who's not on the call today, who mentioned maybe to me last week that it's a pretty easy step to call and get the list of events. And so I suspect it would not be too many more hours work beyond what's already there to go and get a read calendar and then be able to do something with that.
Right, exactly. I'm thinking of a DNN Plantain app version of Calendly, for
Mm-hmm.
local folks to maintain a when am I available kind of a thing.
Um, I'll just put it out here in the for those who haven't done this before that the biggest piece of the logic or the authentication logic all happens in one place, or yeah, there's one call to get a Google authorization bearer token, and when you this bearer token, this is an action within Plant an App where you have to tell it your Google credentials and say what it is, what scopes you're trying to get access to, which in my case, I'm trying to get access to calendar scopes and whether or not you want to impersonate somebody. But the result of this is an output token, which I'm calling Google Bearer. And this is at this point, that's a thing, that's a string that you pass anytime you want to talk to the calendar, and it has a life of about an hour. Well, I think it's defined as a life of an hour, and then so this workflow together with a token. So this is a workflow token that calls the workflow that I was just pointing to, and it returns back this. They all seem to begin with YA29 and however long they go. But this content is what's needed to get Google to have the authorization to act within the Google system. So this thing, Google Cal System Bearer, which I've used here, appears in that workflow I was showing you a moment ago. Just open it, the create event workflow. When you're actually doing the server request to Google, we have bearer and then that system bearer token. Anyway,
Yeah, it looks real straightforward to
fun.
once you have that, obviously the credentials imply that you have access to that calendar. And now, I mean, if you're obviously writing it, then you can read to it. You just need to know what Google's call is to request a read.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. So thanks for sharing your hour with us. We will do it again next week, but not the week after. And yeah, if you have a few minutes, hang around for Afterglow and we'll hang out with the recording off. See you next week.